Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. We've got a very tense battle today as ShetlandApache leads the Beastmen against Lotus Moon's Wood Elves. These guys are both great generals and they've come in with some very interesting approaches. Malagor the Dark Omen leads the Beastmen with Unholy Power, Bestial Surge, Icons of Vilification, Viletide, and Devolve. A Gorebull comes in alongside him with Bloodgreed and Slaughterer's Call. Beyond that, we've got 3 units of Ungor Spearmen, 2 ranked up to rank 1, who will try and fend off Wild Riders while also able to chase after ranged units and fight lower tier Wood Elf infantry. The 3 units of Centaurs alongside the 3 units of Chaos Warhounds and 2 units of Chaos Warhounds with Poison will try to shut down Wild Riders as well and form a very large anti-range contingent, able to split into multiple small parts and attack Wood Elf archers from a variety of angles, potentially overwhelming the enemy general. The 5 units of Harpies fill a similar role with the added mobility that comes from flying, while the Minotaurs with great weapons bring some serious anti-large capabilities alongside the Gorebull. The Wood Elves have a Glade Lord in charge on Dragonback with a potion of Toughness, the Arrow of Kronos, and Prey of Anathrema. A Spellsinger of Life brings Earthblood, while a Spellsinger of Shadows brings the enfeebling foe to the battlefield. Then we've got 2 units of War Dancers with Asterai Spear who will make quick work of most large units while also very capable in melee against infantry. 5 units of Deepwood Scouts looking to kite and hurt the enemy from a safe distance, while the 4 units of Wild Riders screen them from incoming enemy charges and go after enemy range units as well. Alright, another battle where we have to discuss deployment pause because the action starts instantaneously on this right flank here, but first let's discuss what we'll call the core of the Beastmen army. We've got 3 units of Ungor Spearmen herd, we also have the Gorebull, the Minotaurs with great weapons, and Malagor himself. So these guys are largely hidden except for the Minotaurs here. They're all hidden, tucked away in these trees. Now let's look at the left flank, the far left here. We've got 2 units of Chaos Warhounds, 1 unit of Chaos Warhounds with Poison, and 2 units of Harpies. And then all the way on the right flank over here, far more intricate, we've got the Chaos Warhounds with Poison, another unit of Chaos Warhounds, 3 units of Harpies, and then these 3 units of Centaurs. So a very interesting right flank. And that same flank seen from the Wood Elf perspective, we've got both of the Wild Riders here already engaged in combat. Then these Deepwood Scouts, Vanguard deployed all the way up front. Most of them are hidden because they can stalk, but this 1 unit over here has already opened shots. They are firing at these Chaos Warhounds with Poison, so their shots are visible, and like I said, action instantaneously. Right behind these guys, we do have the Glade Lord atop the Forest Dragon, and then we've also got these War Dancers with Asterai Spear alongside the Spellsinger of Life, so these guys able to move in to protect however necessary, and we also have these 2 units of Wild Riders, again able to shield and screen and protect these Deepwood Scouts however necessary. Then, all the way back here, we have the Spellsinger of Shadows and the War Dancers with Asterai Spear, the last unit there. So they're also able to come in and intercept anything that might be coming in from the flanks, any sort of clever maneuvers. Also, it allows the Deepwood Scouts to retreat in multiple directions and know that they have some safety nets in various directions. Now, with all that said, with this very complicated battlefield layout put forth, let's see exactly how the battle breaks down. So like I said, the action starts instantaneously. So you'll see these 2 Centaur units are engaged with the Wild Riders, and this unit of Deepwood Scouts is opening shots off at the Chaos Warhounds with Poison. So at first, these Warhounds are heading towards the ranged units, and everybody here clumps in. You'll see these Centaurs are very quickly taken care of, but now as everybody else clumps in, these Wild Riders are being damaged heftily. Same thing goes for these Wild Riders as well. Meanwhile, off in the distance there, we're going to start right away in slow motion. There's so much going on in this battle. So first things first, these guys all pour forth, and they are giving chase to the Deepwood Scouts. I'm guessing because these guys were on fire at will and their first shots went off, the Beastmen player assumed that the rest of the ranged contingent was laid out sort of up front here, and seeing the rest of the Wood Elf army, it became, I guess, predictable what they were trying to do. So immediately pushing forward, trying to shut these guys down before they're able to get too much work done. Meanwhile, back here, you'll see these Centaurs have already begun to rout, so they're on their way out, and at the same time, these Wild Riders as well, surrounded by so many forces, the Poison, the Harpies, the Centaurs. These guys have given up as well, and these guys are a viable next target. They just need to be surrounded more thoroughly, and they'll give up quite as easily. Now, all the way at the other side, of course, these guys are pushing forth, and in fact, they are targeting the War Dancers with Asterai Spear. Not the worst idea. These are a threatening unit, but it would have been a good idea to actually split these guys up, send one section of them against these ranged units and one against the War Dancers with Asrai Spear and the Spellsinger of Shadows. On that same note, both of these Warhounds over here, the Chaos Warhounds with and without poison, were sent in against the Wild Riders over here. After that one unit was taken care of, one of them should have been sent around to chase after these Deepwood Scouts. It was risky because the Glade Lord is there, but it's very... these ranged units are an extremely highly threatening contingent, and you'll see as they're charging down, as these Beastmen units are charging down, they're eating a lot of shots, and you'll see very quickly those Minotaurs with great weapons, because they don't have shields, they will eat a lot of damage. And it's a good idea to bring shields against the Wood Elves, because they will most likely have a lot of ranged units. You'll see here these Chaos Warhounds are beginning to surrender, and as these Senegors sort of run away, so too do these Wild Riders. And now over here, all of these guys instead go towards these Wild Riders, trying to get that charge in, get a lot of damage in from the charges, and you'll see the Wild Riders take, well, you can barely see their unit icon here. They take a lot of damage instantaneously, trying to get a lot of work done. Meanwhile, all the way over here, you'll see these Minotaurs with great weapons taking a lot of damage from all of this ranged fire. And great movement here as well by the Wood Elf player. You'll see they sort of curve away. The War Dancers with the Asrai Spear dive into combat. They are anti-large. Meanwhile, these guys are able to pull back, so not only are they able to open shots off at this inbound Beastmen contingent, they're able to set themselves up to open shots off at these guys here as well. Meanwhile, from the far left, in come these Chaos Warhounds, the Harpies, all charging in, again, targeting the War Dancers with Asrai Spear. So let's resume into full speed here, and again, not the best move. Now, it's a good idea to keep these War Dancers pinned in place, but these guys all dive in. They do cause a significant amount of damage, but it's this collection of ranged units that are really the threat. Those Minotaurs with great weapons are basically already taken care of. The Gorbel also taking a lot of damage, and over here, as the Glade Lord dives in, terror strikes the heart of all of these Beastmen. You'll see they're all on their way out, and it is most unfortunate, but because they're right next to the edge of the battlefield, a lot of these units leave the battlefield right here, right now. Even though they very well be able to come back to fight, because they're on the edge there, they all sort of start to leave. Some of them instead retreat away this way, so they don't quite leave the battlefield, but a handful of units fly or ride, or I guess Senegors don't ride, run right off the field. So very unfortunate there. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see these guys continue to give chase, trying to close the gap there. Meanwhile, these War Dancers with the Asrai Spear very quickly taken care of. So this blob did some very good and quick work here, and now they're moving onwards. They're going to get intercepted by the Wild Riders, though, at least the Warhounds will. The Harpies really need to continue onwards and shut down some of these Deepwood Scouts, because they're getting a lot of damage, and you'll see the Gorbel, as he charges into the Wild Riders, is the next target. So you'll see as the Gorbel dives in there, he is anti-large, so he's going to get some hurt into the Wild Riders, but look at how much damage the Wild Riders take when all of these Warhounds here dive in. So they're all going to dive in. You've got the Spearmen as well diving in. Meanwhile, all this ranged fire coming in, causing a fair amount of damage, and now these Wild Riders very quickly falling apart, almost, well, basically already good to go. They want to get the hell out of there, and you'll see these guys now back there, safe from all the ranged fire, but they need to be brought in instantaneously. These guys are staying too far back for far too long. They need to be sent in immediately. Again, the ranged units able to open fire. They've barely taken any damage. They haven't taken any damage whatsoever, and you'll see all these guys open fire at these Spearmen here as they try to charge in and close the gap on the Deepwood Scouts, and they take a lot of damage. Ranged fire should not be taken lightly, especially when you do not have shielded units or you don't have heavily armored units, making the focus of your army. Half of these guys fall apart and die. So that's an entire unit, well, half a unit basically gone. And meanwhile, over here, we've got these Ungor Spearmen herd as well, chasing these Deepwood Scouts away. The Ungor Spearmen herd are faster, but the Deepwood Scouts, with the right angles and just opening shots off, can hold these Spearmen herd back. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see the Wild Riders are now routing, so it's very important to, again, keep moving. Push those Chaos Warhounds against these Deepwood Scouts. Push them, further this way. Do anything with them rather than stay engaged with a routing unit. Meanwhile, finally, up here, you'll see these guys are being sent in to respond, hopefully get some rear charges in on these Deepwood Scouts. Meanwhile, these Wild Riders now shutting down the Minotaurs with great weapons once and for all. These guys are routing once again, so just trying to shut them down, realizing they don't really need to, turning up and now able to dive in, get some rear charges in here or in here, whatever might be necessary. Meanwhile, these War Dancers with Asrai Spear kind of hanging back there for a little while, but now pushing in again, and at the same time, over here, Malagor drops Devolve, so doing a little bit of damage, the first little bit of damage that the ranged units are facing. So good play there. Devolve is a powerful spell nowadays, and it's just a matter of waiting until these guys get in and get some nice rear charges. Meanwhile, you'll see an Arrow of Kronos hits the Gorbel square in the chest, the side, the kidneys, whatever it might be, and does a fair amount of damage there. And of course, at the same time, all of this range fire coming in, doing a lot of leadership damage. So again, Harpies and Warhounds are great for spreading out and chasing after a variety of ranged units. Unfortunately, they're being clumped in far too much. It was a good idea at first where a lot of units were very quickly taken care of, but at this point they are hanging back and moving together far too much. Now, back to full speed once again. You'll see now these Harpies and the Senegors here alongside the Chaos Warhounds were charging in. Could have gotten a clear rear charge into these Deepwood Scouts, but instead decided to dive into the Spellslinger of Life, which was a complete waste of these units. One unit, sure, but all three of them, not necessary at all. And these Wild Riders do come in, get a rear charge, scare those Senegors off, and do a decent amount of damage to those Warhounds as well. So that was a little wasteful. Meanwhile, over here, you'll see the Ungor Spearmen finally catch up to the Deepwood Scouts, but they're able to keep pushing away. And meanwhile, these Deepwood Scouts over here opening shots off, slowly but surely scaring these guys off. Vile Tide does go down, causing a little bit more damage to these Deepwood Scouts. And take a look at what one unit of Chaos Warhounds was able to do. Yes, alongside Devolve and Vile Tide, but this unit of Deepwood Scouts largely taken care of. Same goes over here as well. That should have been happening a lot sooner. Over here in the center, you'll see these two Wild Rider units are being taken care of by the Gorbel and the Ungor Spearmen. So this unit of Chaos Warhounds with poison would have been doing much more important tasks by chasing after these Deepwood Scouts. Chasing after these War Dancers with Azrai Spear, maybe not so much. Get these Harpies as well down here against these Deepwood Scouts, or get them here to cap off these Deepwood Scouts. Is the Forest Dragon frightening? Absolutely, but that ranged fire does a lot of morale damage. And so you'll see over here these Wild Riders are being taken care of, but not before these Chaos Warhounds are made to rout off. And now these Chaos Warhounds again chasing down this way as opposed to shutting this gap down. This is a far more threatening target than these Wild Riders, and now pushing up against the Spellslinger of Life once more, because all of these guys once again have been retreated. They've routed back, and they need to be sent forward again to once more take care of some of these ranged units. And you'll see over here we have the Enfeebling Foe go down. Great call there, making sure that the Gorbel is not able to do a lot of damage if he dives back into the Glade Lord. And the Glade Lord doing a lot of thrashing, doing a fair amount of damage there, taking a little bit as well, but a lot of great work being done there. Able to shut down Malagor as well if he so chooses, but great use of the Glade Lord there. And over here you'll see the Ungor Spearmen ultimately able to scare the Deepwood Scouts off, but now these Wild Riders are able to dive in and do the same to the Ungor Spearmen. Again, just diving in, tossing them aside, and having them break. If it was a unit of Chaos Warhounds instead, especially with poison, the Deepwood Scouts may have actually been completely taken care of. Another Vile Tide goes down here, does a little bit of damage to these War Dancers with Azrai Spears. Again, not the most powerful of spells, but any damage is helpful here, and you'll see the Gorbel being tossed around. Finally, these units back here ordered to chase after this unit of Deepwood Scouts, and again, these Chaos Warhounds as well being ordered in to chase after the Deepwood Scouts as well. Meanwhile, these guys still keeping the Spellslinger of Life busy. Not the worst call, but again, this late into the battle, especially with two spellcasters on the field, Lore of Life doesn't do too much work. Again, the Lore of Life is most effective early on in a battle because it doesn't bring people back from the dead. So after so many losses have been suffered, it's really only the Glade Lord who would get the most help from the Lore of Life. But as you can see, the Glade Lord's got a Potion of Toughness, and that's going to bring hit points back just as well. Meanwhile, you'll see the Gorbel as well, tied down by the Prey of Anathrema, not able to move, that reduced missile resistance, all this missile fire coming in, and these Warhounds just a little bit too late getting in there, but they are going to try their best. Meanwhile, these Warhounds as well trying to dive in to get into that action. These Wild Riders, however, provide a serious distraction. The Warhounds go there instead. Now, I understand wanting to pin down the Wild Riders to try and allow the Ungor Spearmen to catch up and shut down the Wild Riders, but really, it could have been done by the Senegors. Instead, the Chaos Warhounds can close distances a lot more quickly, so these Warhounds should have been sent after these Deepwood Scouts or after these Deepwood Scouts. You'll see these Wild Riders as well returning into the fray, wanting to dive into combat, and at this point, really, it's about shutting down ranged units. They're the biggest threat. Another Arrow of Kronos goes down, tossing the Gorbel back, doing a fair amount of damage to these Chaos Warhounds as well. The Gorbel just getting to his feet, very low on health. The Glade Lord, though, dives in to try and rescue these Deepwood Scouts, tries to hit some of these Harpies and get them to fall back, but you'll see a couple of shatters now start the War Dancers with the Azrai Spear here, shattering this unit of War Dancers, routing as well. We've got these Wild Riders routing as well, so the Beastmen are very much on top right now, and they decide to give chase again to this unit of Deepwood Scouts. So a little bit of micromanagement here would have gone a long way, sending some of these Warhounds this way, sending some to the side here, sending some directly, maybe getting some Harpies to come around, would have done a lot of work, because you'll see as these Warhounds just charge straight down, the Glade Lord has a straight path of interception, able to bog down and cause damage to all three of these units. And let's not forget Fear and Terror. Meanwhile, you'll see another Vile Tide goes here. Great thinking here. I love the thought process. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit too early. Maybe a second later, and the amount of damage done here could have destroyed this unit of Deepwood Scouts' will to fight. Unfortunately, Viletide went down just maybe half a second too soon, and these guys sort of charged through completely unflinching. But on the flip side, you'll see these guys are struck by terror. So these guys have completely shattered, these Chaos Warhounds, this other unit of Chaos Warhounds as well, on their way out, completely terrified. And the Glade Lord here doing a lot of work. The Gorebull trying to dive in to get some work done, charges in, tries to hurt the Glade Lord as best as possible, but very low on health, a very dangerous position to be in. A couple more shots from both of these units of Deepwood Scouts, trying to reduce that morale with some range fire. The Glade Lord again with the terror and fear, dropping these Ungor Spearmen, scaring them right off, and Malagor here being tossed around. So that upper hand very quickly turning around in favor of the Glade Lord and his Wood Elves. You'll see here the Senegors as well trying to dive in to try and provide some protection, but these guys are routing. Very little to sort of try and help. A little bit of ranged fire goes a long way. These guys turn around to rout, and there you have it, a full shatter. The Wood Elves take the day. A valiant defeat for the Beastmen, and I absolutely agree with the game. Very valiant indeed. I thought this battle was a solid display of how unpredictable the battlefield can be. Both armies were non-traditional builds, and both armies had extremely interesting deployment strategies. We saw some great unit management from both sides of the field, though Lotus Moon just edged out ShetlandApache because of a few moments here and there where units were either left unattended or they were targeting the wrong enemy troops. The inability to shut down the Wood Elf ranged contingent cost the Beastmen the battle. The fear and terror from the Glade Lord's Forest Dragon obviously did not help, but many of those heavy-hitting Beastmen units were taken out of commission before lines could even meet, and even though lines didn't really exist in this battle, and even past that, just a little bit of trickle damage and just being under ranged fire can cause enough morale damage to change a winning situation into a horrible loss. As always, guys, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays. I think it's one of the best ways to learn, and highlighting such intense battles is always a great time. It's nice to see how other generals are commanding their troops. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.